Good morning, I am Aurora, and today I'm presenting my research on the Taiwan issue with the title The Taiwan Issue, a Flashpoint for International Stability and Global Security. This presentation addresses a few reasons why the topic is worthy of attention, a short introduction to the debate around the research question, and my argument and policy recommendation. Before I dive into the paper itself, I first want to explain the background of my research. This essay takes its cue from research I formerly conducted on the role of the People's Republic of China on the global stage, concerning particularly whether China, under the leadership of Xi Jinping, could be a threat to the liberal international order in the coming years. To give a concise idea of my main claim, I argued that the People's Republic of China is a non-offensive actor that does not have the incentives nor the capabilities to threaten the international liberal order. A significant criticism arose to my previous paper. The People's Republic of China cannot be understood as a non-offensive actor if we consider the issue of Taiwan. Consequently, I decided to devote more space to dismissing these counter-arguments in this second essay. The significance of this study is highlighted by three core factors. I can only briefly mention here due to the lack of time, but further details can be reviewed in the essay. So firstly, the Taiwan issue has an enduring complex history. The lack of a clear definition of a legitimate sovereign ruler of Taiwan, combined with other major historical events such as colonialism and world wars, originate the divide between the People's Republic of China and the Republic of China. Secondly, the rivalry is not just embedded in history, but it has relevant consequences in the present too. The One China policy constrains countries and international organizations' choices concerning their alignments, citing the People's Republic of China or the Republic of China. Thirdly, the concrete historical and contemporary divide develops side by side with an ideological one. Provided that the People's Republic of China is an autocracy, the Republic of China fears a sharp reversion to an autocratic regime after having attained the status of liberal democracy. In conclusion, the divide entails historical legacies, contemporary tensions, and ideological differences. In addition to these three points, an elaborate debate focuses the attention of several scholars on the Taiwan issue. For the years, scholars have shown immense interest in the issue, and consequently, the quantity of information accessible is massive. Hence, it is unattainable to review and offer a complete, exhaustive summary of the debate. To narrow the field of observation, this research focuses on the following question. To what extent is the Taiwan issue a flashpoint for stability of international relations and global security today? By flashpoint, I mean a point at which something bursts suddenly into action or being. It is a metaphor to describe to what extent the issue can impact the current global order, destabilizing the world's balance of power and security. Just to mention some of the various arguments I reviewed, some scholars argue that the Taiwan issue is likely to have permanent catastrophic consequences on the global order. Conversely, some others claim that Taiwan is no menace to the international stability. Additionally, some other non-extreme scenarios are discussed in the paper. In such a complex frame, I argue that the Taiwan issue is a modern flashpoint for the stability of international relations and global security. The level of stability cannot be defined as low as the degree of international tension is maintained elevated by domestic interests. Yet, none of the actors involved will gain an absolute benefit from a confrontation. The issue cannot be considered as a primary urgency either, because the People's Republic of China would not take offensive action against Taiwan unless provocation occurs. In such case, the response would still not be too aggressive. I claim that the tension between the People's Republic of China and the United States concerning the Taiwan issue will remain a stable point in the coming years, but no conflict will occur, which stably fosters a moderate level of friction between the two main power. So Firstly, as mentioned, the People's Republic of China does not have the incentives nor the capabilities to threaten Taiwan's status quo. Additionally, strong economic ties deter the People's Republic of China's aggressive attempts. A counterargument to this claim is that the People's Republic of China might rely more on nationalism in the case of an economic downturn, increasing the risk of breakout of a hot conflict. Against this perspective, I argue that the restoration of harsh nationalism is not the protocol the Chinese Communist Party employs to face crises. Two major examples are the 2008 crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. Both in 2008 and 2020, the People's Republic of China recovered economically through governmental intervention, and it is foreseeable that the Communist Party would follow the same tactic, envisaging the prioritization of domestic interest and openness towards international cooperation in the coming years without implementing nationalistic behavior. Secondly, the People's Republic of China has never deliberately shown its interest in a military invasion of Taiwan, nor towards the use of coercive means to attain the island's reunification. A disproof to this claim is the frequency of the People's Republic of China's crossing of Taiwan's defense zone via air and sea. I argue that the reason behind the crossing of the defensive zone is signaling. The President of the United States, Joe Biden, has recently been suggesting his detachment from the strategic ambiguity policy through meetings and conferences. And the former Trump administration had already begun diverting from the policy. Accordingly, I argue that the People's Republic of China has lately been intensifying its aircraft and naval missions around Taiwan to signal that the United States is becoming increasingly threatening to the status quo and the People's Republic of China assume territorial sovereignty. A third associated point is that the People's Republic of China is aimed at the peaceful reunification. The People's Republic of China perceived the Republic of China as part of its territory over which it exercises sovereignty. As a consequence, Taiwanese citizens are also seen as Chinese citizens. Militarily fighting Taiwan would mean attacking Chinese compatriots. Ultimately, opening the fire on Taiwan would be just like attacking the People's Republic of China. Finally, the menace to the status quo is the maintenance of the status quo is a preferable solution for the Republic of China as well. Although the Republic of China is aimed at achieving complete independence and univocal recognition on the international stage, such swift shift towards independence could provoke the People's Republic of China's reaction, which could lead to a dangerous contraposition for independence. Nevertheless, as the Taiwanese are Chinese compatriots in the eyes of the CCP leadership, as said, the People's Republic of China would most likely employ economic means such as sanctions, as Taiwan is strictly dependent on Chinese economy. Even in such as a scenario, the People's Republic of China would still be an unoffensive actor. As the United States and the People's Republic of China would benefit from the maintenance of the status quo, I recommend that the three parties involved, so the US, the PRC, and the Republic of China, should behave mindfully and strategically in order not to trigger any change towards a more tense confrontation. To conclude, let me briefly summarize the main takeaways of my research. So because the People's Republic of China would not take militarily action against Taiwan unless a provocation occurs, and because the actors involved benefit from the maintenance of the status quo, the issue cannot consider as particularly urgent today. The level of instability cannot be classified as low either, since domestic interests keep the level of instability elevated. Liberal powers nowadays are engaging for the maintenance of peace and the diffusion of liberal democracy worldwide. Conversely, the People's Republic of China is concerned about Western interference and about losing its assumed territorial sovereignty over Taiwan. concluding the outbreak of a conflict between the PRC and the US because of the Taiwan issue is unlikely given the devastating costs it entails. Tensions between the People's Republic of China and the United States will remain stable in the coming years, but no conflict will occur, which stably fosters a moderate level of friction. These are my references, and thank you so much for your interest and attention. For any question or further remarks, please feel free to contact me at my institutional email address. And please bear in mind that this presentation is just a summary of a much broader study. So if you're interested in any further details or arguments, do read the essay. Thank you.